I just wanted to make this video short and sweet to let you guys know that I am not okay and probably won't be for a while after watching what is known as Amphibia Season 3, Episode 7, Olivia Yunan. Okay, good night. Amphibia was something else this week. On one hand, we get a nice character building episode for Sprig with tons of fun Spider-Man references, followed by the most intense episode of Amphibia we've gotten since True Colors. I don't even want to waste y'all's time too much with an intro on this one either. Let's get this shit.
Let's get this shit. Let's get this shit. Let's get this shit.
The first episode, SpiderSprig, opens with the whole family, minus Mrs. Boonchoy, watching a superhero movie about a hero from another world named Tarantulas, who has to not only deal with a villain named Bufferfish, but the conflict of being accepted by the rest of humanity since he's an alien. Eventually having his true face seen by city citizens after defeating the villain. Thankfully, it all worked out when a little girl reassured him he's still a hero regardless of what he looks like or where he came from. The movie's ending leaves both Mr. Boonchoy and Sprig in tears, with Sprig wanting to become just like Tarantulas, fighting crime and being accepted by Earth society. But Anne quickly rejects this dream since he still has to keep a low profile while being on Earth. I'm totally for Polly becoming a genius little sister, by the way. A couple weeks ago, she became an expert in robotics, and now she's a movie critic. I absolutely love it. And it was thanks to Polly's critiques of the movie that pushed Sprig over the edge to follow his superhero dream anyway. We then cut to Sprig in the attic narrating about his superhero origin story, wanting to make his mark on Earth before he has to leave, climbing walls and doing ton tricks in the process, swinging around just like Spidey, of course. Maybe I'm crazy, but when Sprig was drawing those costume designs, the one on the far left looked just like Ralsei from Deltarune. That's gotta be them, right? It looks too similar. There's no way it's not. Eventually landing on the final costume design that we saw in the Season 3 trailer, dubbing himself Frogman. Polly walks in on him calling out his true reasons for even wanting to do this, which sets up Sprig's inevitable character growth for the end of episode resolution. He of course lies to Polly saying he's fighting for justice and not attention. Now out on patrol of LA looking for crime, Sprig notices local neighborhood supervisor Robert Otto writing up two 8-year-olds for selling lemonade without a permit. Robert being voiced by none other than Brad Garrett, who I had a very strong hunch would voice this character. What's so perfect about this is his first name is Robert, and that's a reference to Robert Barone, whom Garrett played on Everybody Loves Raymond, with his last name Otto being a reference to Otto Octavius, aka Dr. Octopus, since Robert is inevitably going to gain access to Cloakbot's severed arm. Sprig introduces himself as Frogman, but Robert tries to shut him down, saying the streets don't need Sprig because they got him. Thus begins their first fight over who can be the sole hero. They then both hear a wild bus out of control, driving down a steep hill like City Escape from Sonic Adventure 2. Robert Otto tries to stop the bus with his bare body, which of course fails. Thankfully, Sprig arrives just in time to create a safety net with his tongue to stop the bus. I guess this net also saved Robert from several broken bones. I'm honestly not sure how the initial impact had no effect though. We can clearly see Robert has the same issue as Sprig too, just wanting the praise and attention from those around him rather than helping others because it's the right thing to do. Molly Jo, aka the Mary Jane of Amphibia, runs over to thank Sprig for his hero work. She's also Robert's granddaughter. Are the pink and green dyes in her hair supposed to be a reference to Marcy and Sasha's Calamity Stones? I'd like to think that's the case at least. And here we get a bit of a montage related to Frogman's hero work. He's become famous enough to appear on several news stations and make a mark on social media, even scoring an interview with Conan O'Brien. Anne's not happy about this though. Later at night, we see Robert at the junkyard, which he actually owns, furiously scrolling through social media posts about Sprig, the first one being a DuzzFeed article, which is a reference to BuzzFeed, even seeing a post about Frogman from Molly Jo, eventually being broken by a version of the distracted boyfriend meme using his face and Sprig's face. Also, the site he founded on, Dimager, is based on the real-life website Imager. That's how you pronounce that, right? Overcome with rage, Robert stumbles upon Cloakbot's arm and puts it on, using it as if he was Cloakbot himself with all that precision, now more determined than ever to destroy Sprig. The next day, Sprig is patrolling the area when he's stopped by more fans, loving all the praise they're giving him at that. Oh look, it's Super Mario offering him a pizza. Remember just last week when I said I wanted to see more Mario references in Amphibia since Sonic was referenced the most? I guess my prayers were answered. I didn't watch this episode days in advance. You gotta believe me. Before Sprig can fully enjoy that pizza, Robert pulls up looking for a fight. I'm kind of surprised Sprig didn't recognize Cloakbot's arm though, literally asking Robert where he got it while using an enthusiastic tone. Considering they fought that thing 3 times, you'd think he'd remember its design at least somewhat, but I guess not. The two of them continue to duke it out downtown, Sprig pretty much fighting on the defensive the entire time while Robert destroys property in the process. All those slow motion shots had very comic book panel vibes to them, which was cool, and seeing the two of them go up the side of a building in the middle of their battle, that's two things Spidey and Doc Ock are very good at. Eventually we see Molly Jo walking out of a coffee shop with Tyler's fiance near her, cowering in fear. It's not Anne's fault he's going through misfortune this time, so that's something. She suffers a near-death experience when a car lands right next to her and sees the two reasons behind it still fighting. Robert throws a car at a light post that's about to fall on Molly Jo, which makes the two of them stop fighting after seeing she's in danger. Thankfully, Sprig is able to move her just in time, but she's not impressed since they caused so much damage in their fight. Even Robert is feeling pretty guilty about it, so the two of them apologize for their selfish acts and decide to clean up the mess they've made to make up for it. Sprig becomes proper friends with Molly, but doesn't want to show his face, saying she'll have nightmares if she sees it. The secret is gonna be out in 2 weeks though, so good luck. Unfortunate that Robert had to go to jail though. I get he started the fight, but Sprig's not necessarily innocent either. Why'd the cop just watch him tongue swing away like that? Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, I'm sure. Olivia and Yunan. The episode opens with a flashback of Marcy and Olivia on the Newtopian castle balcony overlooking Newtopia. Marcy's still in her school uniform with crutches, and the reason she's on crutches is because she fell down a flight of stairs right when she arrived in Newtopia, as seen in her theme song Takeover. Olivia tells Marcy she's from a line of newts who made a sacred vow to take care of the land of Amphibia, from the trees to the animals. Marcy wants to look after the lands just like Olivia as a thanks for her taking her in. It's so beautiful, isn't it? Well, and not so much anymore. Newtopia went from a magical wonderland to looking like one of the Onceler's Thinid factories. Everything barren and brown. Olivia sighs on the balcony seeing all this going on. Then a Frobo shows up letting her know Andreas summoned her. Yunan is already waiting outside the throne door because she was summoned too. Olivia isn't sure why they're being summoned, but thinks it must be bad since they haven't even talked to Andreas in weeks, aka since True Colors. They take a peep inside to witness Andreas talking to his lord in private. Something about a device and wanting it to be tested on someone else before using it for its proper purpose. He's even got flags with its design on them. That's nice. When Andreas properly calls them in, he lets them know they've been promoted. Olivia will oversee the construction of the Frobo factories, while Yunan will round up frogs from across Amphibia to work at said factories. And if those frogs refuse, terminate them on the spot. Olivia is filled with rage after that meeting, completely fed up with Andreas destroying the very land she vowed to protect years ago. Look at the way Olivia looked at Yunan when she carried her off, though. Yunan agrees he's gone too far and thinks he's losing his mind, too, after not knowing who he could be talking to. They want to take him down, but know they can't do it alone, wanting someone even more clever than he is. And Marcy is the only person in Amphibia who qualifies. Yunan tries to make a case for herself about being smart, but quickly proves herself wrong. On their way to Marcy, they make it past the Frobo guards very easily thanks to Yunan's stealth skills, eventually making it to Marcy's old room where Olivia opens the hatch to the basement while Yunan grabs Marcy's crossbow just in case. The first area they encounter is the Mossman Garden, the same one from the sleepover at End All Sleepovers, and that same Mossman greets Yunan with a friendship flower. I'm kinda sad that Olivia wasn't the one to give it to her, but oh well. And the Shadowfish from the same episode start to follow them too, to which Olivia reveals this is likely where Andreas' ancestors kept beings from other worlds, as prisoners. I had a feeling since their introduction, Shadowfish were from another world, and I was right. Olivia and Yunan arrive at Marcy's chamber, but something is already watching them. While Yunan takes Marcy out of the tank, we can see Newtopian writing on it, which translates to the word host. And that's not creepy at all, nope. Marcy wakes up, but she's not 100% mentally there yet. And seeing the polar opposites of how Olivia and Yunan try to get Marcy to come to was hilarious. Yunan slapping Marcy around while Olivia just pulls a teapot and a towel out of thin air. Before the gang is able to leave the chamber, a projected illusion meant to destroy them mentally is cast. Olivia seeing visions of her mother disappointed that she couldn't keep her sacred vow, while projections of a grubhog of all things are used to scare Yunan. One of them almost bit her arm off when she was a kid, apparently. And even when Marcy points out it's all projected illusions, it doesn't matter because not only does it look super real, they're being forced to deal with these situations that are intended to destroy their mental state. Marcy almost succumbs to it too, when a projection of Anne and Sasha telling Marcy they don't want to be friends with her anymore appears. Is it me, or is that prom balloon being blue, aka Anne's gem color, next to a yellow balloon, which is Marcy's favorite color, mean anything? And cut back to Yunan cornered by a grubhog where she accidentally covers one of the eyes making the projections, letting her figure out how to stop it. Destroy all the eyes. Good thing Yunan grabbed that crossbow, letting Marcy destroy the final eye. Happy with their performance, the three heroines make their escape. But Andreas isn't that stupid. He stops them right away, because he was watching the whole time. Or they were watching the whole time. That thing even has access to Andreas' crown. That's how he was able to speak to it earlier in the episode. The entity, officially dubbed the Core, makes its grand entrance. So it's not called the Knight, but we were close, guys. We had the word the right, at least. It suddenly grabs Marcy by the face, placing her in the doomsday chair, if you will. King Andreas reveals the Core is a collection of Amphibia's greatest minds preserved for all eternity. And the way I took that statement is the Core being made up of his ancestors, more or less. I wouldn't be surprised if his parents' minds are in there somehow. The reason the Core even exists is thanks to the previous conquest before the box was taken. The Mossmen improved the Leviathan family's medical tech, since the Mossmen have the ability to preserve foliage for years on end, even without sunlight, but the Shadowfish were the final key to unlocking eternal life. I bet that's why they were chained in those coffins in their debut episode. It was to test if they'd survive or not while being locked down there. And they did. All of those subtleties from the sleepover to End All Sleepovers finally being tied together. Absolutely amazing. And are these experiments the reason Andreas was able to live so long? Was he eventually destined to become part of the Core and just be okay with that? It seems like that to me. I don't know. Andreas tells Marcy the Core craved the smartest host possible, which is her. Andreas even tried to make a case for Marcy so the Core wouldn't choose her, but it wouldn't budge. Andreas values his family lineage more than his friendship, even if it means not doing what he personally wants all the time. If it's for the greater goal, he'll do it. And that's what makes him such a great villain. The whole final scene of Marcy about to be possessed is truly terrifying. You know, the genuine fear from Marcy, Olivia, and Yunan, and King Andreas even feeling bad that it had to be her, followed by the horrific screams from Marcy when the helmet is placed on her head. And it seems the core was uploaded to her through the use of binary code, which I guess is kind of neat. And now the time has come for the core to lead everyone to their destiny. Say goodbye to Marcy and say hello to Darcy. That's what the end credits called her anyway, but I prefer just Dark Marcy though. In just 2 more weeks until this thing arrives on Earth. I am not ready for this, fellas. You have no idea. And one last thing, I noticed the voice line of presumably the core talking about saying goodbye to those childhood friends was not in this episode, meaning it will likely be in Froggy Little Christmas. Part of me has been wondering if it's even talking to Marcy now since it wasn't in this episode. I have a feeling there's an equal possibility that it was talking to a past version of Andreas now. We need more Andreas flashbacks, please. I'm sure these episodes will deliver. Let me know what you thought of these episodes in the comments below, and feel free to point out any details I might have missed from these 2 episodes. I'd love to know your thoughts. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like down below. It helps out a ton. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out. Take care. Bye-bye.